So guys, today we're going to be taking a look at what I think are the two most disrespected legendary Pokemon in Regulation G, and that is Kyogre and Koraiadon. Now, obviously Kyogre and Koraiadon, at first glance, a lot of people are like, Scott, what are you talking about? These are clearly two very, very good restricted legendary Pokemon, and I agree. But, I've watched other YouTubers' videos, I've seen people talking about it on Twitter. These two guys are getting a lot of hate, right? People are saying Kyogre's not going to be that good, right? Kyogre, it doesn't have the rain partners, Sun's just so much better, it has all the Paradox Pokemon, blah, 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 right? And then with Koraidon, same thing, right? Sun is a lot better, but everyone's just saying, Groudon's just better. Groudon, blah, 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 right? Everyone's just saying it's better, right? Groudon, it pairs up a lot better with things like Flutter Mane, it's not weak to Flutter Mane, all that good stuff, right? But then there I was, right? I'm just chilling. I'm looking around like the tours and whatnot. The online tours, I always keep up with them. And I see that Kyogre is actually getting some pretty good results, and Koraidon's getting pretty good results. I've tested out both of them. I also think they're really good, man. Koraidon, like, super slept on, right? So, I guess we're going to talk about why are each of these Pokemon so good, right? Well, obviously, they both set weather, right? That's the major thing here. Kyogre here has access to Drizzle, and it also has one of the, I should probably mention, it has a very good special attack stat, but also has one of the most broken water moves being Water Spout, right? Very, very strong. If Kyogre can go first and click Water Spout in the rain, it will just straight up, sweep teams, right? This thing's insane. Doesn't matter if you resist this move, you're still taking a ridiculous amount of damage to it. And of course, Kyogre pairs up incredibly well with our good friend Tornadus, right? Tornadus obviously has Prankster Tailwind, and it has, of course, two big moves that love, playing in the rain, which are Hurricane and Bleak Wind Storm, right? If you want single target, Hurricane's great. If you want, Bleak Wind, it's also fantastic, right? It's a very, very good Pokemon web paired up with Kyogre, and of course, there are other great Pokemon as well that pair up with Kyogre. Things like Urshifu Rapid Strike is another big one that comes to mind. But yes, Kyogre here, he's got his Water Spout. If you ever get chipped, you've also got access to things like Origin Pulse, which is another very strong water type move. It also has moves like Ice Beam, of course, Thunder, 100% accurate Thunder in the rain. A lot of really, really good options. In terms of items as well, this guy likes to run. Things like Scarf and Specs are pretty good. But I do think things like Bulky Mystic Water is obviously really, really good right now. And of course, I think Terra is also fantastic for Kyogre, right? There's a bunch of different ones you can go for. Things like Defensive Terra Grass are good. Even Ghost as well is really, really nice, especially if you pair it with things like Covered Cloak Tornadus. Because then you just go for, Covered Cloak, click the Tailwind, click the Terra Ghost, and then, you can't get faked out and start dropping big, big damage, right? Which I do think is obviously very, very good. And then, of course, Koraidon over here. Again, this one, it sets up the Sun, but it also gets a 1.3 times attack boost, in the Sun, which is very, very nice, especially when it hits this goddamn hard. This one has a very, very solid attack stat, and it also has a very, very good speed stat, right? Not to mention, as we said before, Sun is probably the best weather in the format right now. It is incredibly good, right? Obviously, it loves to pair with things like the Photosynthesis Bonds. The major ones that come to mind, of course, are things like Flutter Mane, Raging Bolt, and whatnot. And of course, fire types also play really, really well next to it. Of course, things like Ogerborn, Hearthflame, and Chiyu are two other really good Pokemon that come to mind. But this Pokemon honestly has a lot going for it, and there are a few different sets I think it can run. I will mention, I do think Terra Fire is like probably the best Terra on this mon. It's fantastic because obviously this is a Pokemon that is 4x weak to Fairy, so having resistance makes it really, really good. And of course, being a fire type in the Sun is very, very nice. It has a really good, stab moves in close combat and collision course, which are like very, very strong. You definitely don't want both of them unless you're running like a banded set. But depending on what you want, right? Do you want to lose the defense boost here, or just have a consistent spammable move? I'm a big fan of collision course, so I do think that is very, very good. And in terms of a fire type move, it does get Flare Blitz. Flare Blitz obviously is insane, especially in the Sun, right? It basically one-shots anything that doesn't resist. I've seen calcs as well where like you can deal like a ridiculous amount of damage to Miraidon in the Sun with like Terra Fire, Banded, Flare Blitz. It's kind of wild. But another big thing as well I do really like on this one as well is things like Flame Charge. Flame Charge, honestly, funny enough, so I was playing this set earlier on ladder. We'll go over like some EVs later when I actually show you guys some teams. But yeah, so I was running this set, and Terrifier Flame Charge, like one-shot super bulky Flutter Manes. It was like, I think it was like 116 and then like 188 or some shit like that. It's like 116 HP, 188 defense Flutter Mane. Just gets like one tap by Terrifier Flame Charge in the Sun, which is kind of wild. And again, being able to boost up this speed stat obviously is like super, super nice, right? Protect, of course, is like really, really good. This one also has a lot of other cool options as well. It gets things like Swords Dance, which is pretty nice. I've even seen people running like Hisuian Lilligant with Coaching as well, which I think could be like really cool. You go like Coaching plus Flame Charge, and then you kind of just like run through. It's pretty sick. But in terms of items, again, things like Banded, Life Orb, Scarf are all like really, really good. But obviously, Clear Amulet is like the big, big one, right? This is one that doesn't really want to, sit in front of Incin if it doesn't have to, right? It's going to get, intimidated, faked out, and then just like Parting Shot cycled on. But with the Clear Amulet, obviously, and the Protect plus Fighting Stab, you can really threaten out those Incineroars. Yeah, two like really, really good Pokemon. I actually like hate how much they are getting slept on right now because I do think they're like really good. And then when we pull up these tours here, so I got the Himi Burns and the Tommy Tuesdays both loaded, ready to go. I think Himi had off memory was like 140 plays. This one actually like literally just wrapped up. And then we had Tommy as well, which wrapped up, I think yesterday. Could have even been this morning for me because I'm in Australia. And yeah, this one had about 100 players in it as well, right? But if we have a look here, the Tommy Tuesday tour here, we see Kyogre, right? Two of them in the top 8, Sableye VGC, shout out to Ryan, very good dude. Another content creator, go check him out, guys. And then we see another 3 here sitting in the top 16. So 5 Kyogres in the top 16 of this event, which was like kind of wild. And then we also jump over to the Himmy tour here, and we see Koraidon got 2nd place here. We see 2 more here in the top 8. Of course, we got Mikelda Bestie. Michael, he got 2nd at the World Championship in 2023. A incredibly good player, also known for using his NTA very, very good. But yeah, we see 3 Koraidons here in the top 8. We see another one down here in 13th by Haywire as well, which is actually a variant of the team we will take a look at, because this is a, I believe this is a pretty popular variant. I think there was, yeah, so yeah, we also see here Talons using the exact same team as well. So yeah, getting some really, really good results here, right? 4 placements in the top 16 is very, very strong. Also, Pengy here as well, getting, 14th place with Kyogre as well, which is like really, really sick. Anyway, that's jumping over here to Showdown. As you guys can see, we've got Sableye VGC's team. Now, I will go and say all of the EVs in this video are done by me. Not many of them are going to be like super, super optimal. I've kind of just crafted them to how I think the team would look, or at least how I would personally play it. Again, I'm a very hyper offensive player. Keep that in mind when looking at my EV spreads, right? A lot of the time, I play very, very hyper offensive, but I will do my best to kind of explain the team, at least in my opinion, and kind of break down the EVs as we go. So this Kyogre here, as you can see, is a very, very bulky, very offensive Kyogre. Now, again, Kyogre is a mon that hits so damn hard that you could honestly drop a lot of the offense, right? But for me personally, I looked at this team and I was like, to me, this looks like a hybrid tail room team, right? So you've got Giraffe here able to set up the Trick Room for you, and you've got Iron Jugulars here giving you a bit of speed control. And because of that, I ended up going a pretty slow Kyogre here, only going 2-4-12. 2-12 basically allows you to outspeed things like Calyrex-Shadow in Tailwind if they are timid max speed. Also really good for the Urshifus as well, who do kind of creep that speed tier, because they do hit 223. So you're 1 point faster than those as well. But of course, you can definitely creep this as well, right? A lot of Groudons and whatnot will also be in a similar speed tier. So if you even wanted, dropping down, like, say, 4 points in the HP just to throw them into the speed stat is pretty nice, right? Because you are going to get into some speed creep wars. It really just depends if you're comfortable playing with the Trick Room mode or the Tailwind mode, right? Giraffe on this team now. Again, I don't think Ryan's would be this offensive. The idea behind this set here is we are running Shadow Ball. And this one, surprisingly enough, does not actually threaten one-shots on Calyrex-Shadow without a lot of investment into the special attack. That's why we're 156 modest, goddamn. Yeah, honestly, I think this is still a roll, but the roll is heavily in our favor at that point. The reason for 36 speed as well is to hit 170 in Tailwind, but also still be slow enough to run in Trick Room. Again, this is the kind of spread where you could just like drop 2 points out of Spadef or something and put it into speed, because this will allow you to outspeed, max speed base 100s. But of course, actually, no, sorry, that's a lie. I think it also helps you outspeed the base 101s, because I'm pretty sure Landorus Incarnate hits 168 or something like that. Actually, we can double check here. Let's just check here. Yeah, 168, yeah. So you could actually go one less speed there, but honestly, that's fun, right? But yeah, so it's just fast enough to outspeed, base 100s in Tailwind. Also slow enough that if you are up against another hyper offensive team, you are still slow enough to hopefully get some attacks off. And in terms of the spread here, again, I'm not very familiar with Giraffe and what, bulk it should go for, especially in the current metagame where there are a lot more special attackers than there were in the past. For this one, I just went very, very simple. I went to a 208 HP, very, very solid stat. And then I kind of just split the defenses because they both hit 104, which is kind of perfect. For anyone, I guess, who doesn't understand what, like, diminishing return is, so basically, you get less value out of a skill point, or like a defensive EV, if your defense is more than half of your HP stat. So for example, obviously 104 is exactly half of 208, which basically means like this point here, like dropping it off to the defense is like more valuable than if you added one more on. It's just like slight percentage stuff, right? So that's why I like to just go optimal for stuff like this, especially if I'm not calculating for anything in particular. But yeah, just like a relatively bulky draft that still does quite a bit of damage. It can function on Trick Room and Tailwind. Now, the Amungo spread, very, very simple. This is like the same spread I run at the start of every format. This is just the bold 156, 116 Spadef. Honestly, the Spadef always comes down to what your item is. I like going 219 on Regenerator. It's just like more efficient on the Regenerator numbers. And then, yeah, just hitting the bump on defense, pumping into Spadef. And the 27 points here are just to basically underspeed things like Calyrex and Ursaluna's under Trick Room. But yeah, very, very simple set here. Pollen Puff, Clear Smog, Rage Powder Spore. This one's job, honestly, is just to redirect, heal up Kyogre if it needs to, and just put everything to sleep under Trick Room, which is obviously very solid. Incin, its best friend, obviously, Fake Out, Intimidate is very, very good. Flare Blitz, Parting Shot, Knockoff. It kind of does what it does, yeah. I put a lot of Spadef on this one just because I don't like the idea of potentially getting two-shot by Calyrex Ghost. I think it's like really, really sad, so I like running my Incineroars a lot more Spadef than defense invested. But of course, this mon just very, very good, right? It's the best support in the game for a reason, and also pairs incredibly well with the Amoonguss in terms of cycling, right? They cover each other very, very well defensively. Iron Jugulis. Now, I'm a huge fan of Iron Mugulus, man. I love this Pokemon. I'm so glad Ryan played this because I think it is really, really cool. Obviously, the EV spread here. Now, this was something that I was a little torn on, especially with the speed stat here. I ended up opting to go for 158 here just to make sure we outspeed a lot of common Choice Scarf Pokemon. Obviously, the Urshifus, even things like potentially Chi-Yu as well, I think will be pretty good. And Zapdos. Now, obviously, a lot of those guys will probably hit that, 152 range. I opted just to go a little bit more just to kind of speed creep the creepers for if I ever get Icy Winded, right? There are people, myself included, who have run things like 154 to 156 on Ogerpon. As a matter of fact, I think I ran 157 on my Water Ogerpon at Melbourne this year. Because of that, I wanted to creep it just a little bit. I went, max HP here, and the specific reason for this Spatak stat is that no bulk, what's his name? Ghost Rider. No bulk Ghost Rider can actually get one shot by this Snarl, which is kind of a big reason behind it. But also too, I'm clicking, stabbed hurricanes in the rain, so I wanted to have it, a bit of damage. They actually hurt a bit. And then of course, Rain Dance, Tailwind. Having the booster energy plus Tailwind, I think is really, really good on this team. Obviously giving yourself speed control and being able to outspeed a lot of the metagame, obviously is very, very nice. And of course, having Rain Dance to reactivate the weather for Kyogre can be very, very good in the end game. And the same with our good friend Landorus here as well. As we see, this is just 3 attack Lando. This is the set I ran at the Perth Regional last weekend. It's pretty solid. I'm pretty sure off memory, the defensive investment allows you to live things like Terradark with Blow from an Adamant Sash. Obviously, we're max speed because, we don't want to get outsped by other base 100s and 101. So I do think having max speed Modest here is very, very solid. And yeah, just a really cool team by Ryan. I really like it. Obviously, it's like a tail room team. Having like a lot of options like with the Gus and Incin and Iron Jugulis all just being like fantastic supports. And just a lot of damage coming out of Kyogre and Landorus I think is very solid. So here we have Angel V's take on the team. Again, my EVs, very, very similar step spreads on a lot of these ones that you'll kind of notice here. But we do see, a few recurring partners. Of course, Incineroar, Tornadus, Landorus, and Kyogre are all here. A very, very strong core of 4 around the Kyogre. Obviously opting here as well to swap out the Amoonguss for the Rillaboom. But yeah, spread on the Incin's the same. Obviously, one thing I like add with Incin as well is this is just a very basic spread. A lot of my spreads, especially early format, are very basic. I like to just have simple stuff that I know it works. That I can play on the ladder with, right? Because for me, I like to just get the games in. But obviously, there are tweaks to this you can make, right? You can maybe drop some speed def, drop some defense, even drop a little bit of HP, invest some more in attack into the speed stat if you want. Personally, on these, Kyogre teams, I don't want to invest too much into my attack stat simply because blitzes in rain, kind of sad, sometimes. But yeah, so that's kind of why I go for a spread like this. Again, the Rillaboom here, this is just the spread I've run a lot recently. I did opt to go a little bit more speed on this one than in the past, simply because a lot of these, Groudons and Kyogres will be doing similar stuff to what we just spoke about with the Kyogre before, where, a lot of them will hit like that 212 naturally, and because of that, they might try to speed creep up to 214. And I think having just a little bit of speed, especially against Groudons, is very good, because being able to outspeed them and, hit them with the Wood Hammer, I do think is very, very solid. And of course, having high horsepower on this Pokemon is fantastic. This team obviously can kind of struggle into Miraidon teams. You're really reliant on the Rillaboom and the Landorus to kind of deal with Miraidon in particular. And seeing that like Rillaboom is a fantastic switch in with Assault Vest plus Terrain, I do think having high horsepower on it is very valuable. Obviously here on this team, we have the Tornadus here, Cover Cloak, Rain Dance. Actually, we didn't have Tornadus on the last team. I just said Torn was on the last team. That was a lie. He had Iron Jugulis. But yeah, obviously this is just a standard Cover Cloak set here. I did opt for a little bit of special attack on this, just because I didn't really know what else to do with the EVs here. This specific defensive calc here allows you to live the Astral Barrage from a Choice Specs Calyrex-Shadow Rider, which I did think was very good, and then kind of just pumping into the defense stat because it is kind of low. And again, I think having a Tornadus that can kind of deal damage is always really, really nice, and that's why I just opted for 36 Modest. And 12 speed just allows you to outspeed those, Ogerpons that have got no speed investment. Terradark on this thing, obviously very, very good as well for stopping opposing taunts, while obviously having your own option for taunts as well. Landorus set's the exact same, not going to go into it. The Kyogre set here though, now for this one in particular, I did opt for Max Max. The reason I decided to kind of show this off, I guess, is one, Max Kyogre in Tailwind does hit 312, which outspeeds things like Booster Iron Bundle, which hits 309, which I do think is very, very important. And this set here, as you can see, it's Terra Ghost, right? So Terra Ghost plus Cover Cloak here. Make sure that you always get the Tailwind off without getting faked out, and you can always get the, the Terra Ghost off without getting faked out as well, which I do think is very, very nice, right? It gives you this very fast offensive mode, and especially, when you look at this team, and a lot of people are going to think Kyogres are a bit slower and a bit bulkier right now. Just having that max offense, I do think is pretty cool. And then finally, Clef. Clef is just another really good Pokemon, honestly. Having redirection is fantastic. Follow Me, Helping Hand, Thunder Wave. It's just really, really good, man. I think this mon's like really, really good, really slept on. And was kind of finding its, footing in Regulation F as well. And I definitely think going into Reg G as well, we're kind of, we're going to see it rise up even more, I think. Also, I've just realized it says Cute Charm here. That's wrong. That should be Friend Guard. And then, honestly, the Terra, that probably should be a different Terra as well. I'm not too sure what they had. But yeah, still a really cool team. Now, the final Kyogre team I want to take a look at here is Pengy's team. Now, Pengy's a player that has used a lot of weather teams in the past, and they're incredibly talented. They just had a very, very good run at EUIC as well. Stefan Mott, I believe. No, is Stefan Mott? I believe it's Stefan Mott, right? Oh, I bet I've got the name wrong. I apologize. But yeah, another very, very good player. And yeah, running a really cool option here. Water Spout, Origin Pulse, opting to drop the Ice Beam for Thunder, which is really, really cool. Running it with a Focus Sash Tornadus as well, which I did really like. Double Protect, I do think is very solid. And of course, on the Tornadus here, we've just got Max, which I do think is actually pretty good. Focus Sash Tornadus right now is like really, really solid. Obviously, Incin, we spoke about it before. It's just a staple on these Kyogre teams. Like, it's just a really, really good partner for it. We do have the Draft, though, which is why we have opted for a slower Kyogre here, because we do have a Trick Room mode that has Helping Hand. Now, this is just a very generic, bulky Giraffe. Again, I'm not entirely too sure if it is the way to play it, but regardless, I do think it is very, very solid. And then Ogerpon Cornerstone. Apparently, I didn't put EVs on this one, but this is just a max set. I'll tell you guys that right now. Now, the question is, why do we go max on Ogerpon Cornerstone, boys? It is simple. Ogerpon Cornerstone, the reason why I think you will see it pick up a lot more, at least compared to the past formats, is because it has this beautiful ability called Sturdy. What does that mean? It means when you play it with Giraffe and you want to get up your Trick Room, there is no way to kill this thing before you kill Giraffe, unless you just double spread move it. That's the only way, is double spread. But a lot of the time, you're not going to have double spread, and because of that, Terra on Giraffe plus like a potential just Ogerpon redirection means you will always get your Trick Room off, and the beauty of it, this spawns here most of the time just to die. Honestly, that's all Ogerpon does. It's going to follow me until it dies. You pray to God it dies on turn 1. Maybe in the right game, you don't care. Maybe you just go straight for the Ivy Cudgel into the Incineroar and do a lot of damage. I don't know. But yeah, I do think Ogerpon Cornerstone is very, very good right now. I think it is like super, super slept on. And yeah, it's going to rise up because this mon, like paired up with these Trick Room teams, is very, very solid. And obviously, of course, like it's a grass type in rain as well. It's always going to be really good. And then finally, Landorus Incarnate. Apparently, I didn't do the IVs on this guy either, but it's the same one we ran before. It's just my Melbourne spread. I'm not going to go too far into it, guys. You kind of know what it is at this point. Yeah, it's just... It's a good spread, right? It's just a good mon in rain. It deals a lot of damage. Kind of helps out with, obviously, the electric types and the grass types that Kyogre struggles with. But yeah, very, very solid. Now, moving over to Makelda Bestie's team here. This is his Koraidon HO team. Now, I'm not going to lie. I was super surprised to see this team without like a Whimsicott or a Tornadus with Sunny Day, right? You look through this team here. It's a really cool team. But his only speed control is the Flutter Mane, which I did think was really, really interesting, right? So, anyway, we'll go over to the Koraidon. I kind of touched on the spread at the start. This is the spread I was personally testing on Koraidon, and I do think it is really, really good. Now, we see the Blitz and the Close Combat here, which are very, very solid, and of course, the Flame Charge here. I said it before, Terrify Flame Charge in Sun with the boosted damage. Also, you got to remember, this gets boosted up to 60 base power as well if you Terrifier. I don't know if everyone knows that, but any move under 60 base power, when you Terra, if it's like the stab, will get boosted to 60 base power, which is really cool. So that becomes 60 base power, then it gets the boost from this, it gets the boost from Sun. It becomes really, really good, obviously, and it boosts your speed, which is always a good thing. And thanks to things like Clear Amulet, you can't just get Icy Winded down by Flutter Manes and Ion Bundles. Now, Miracle Seed, Rillaboom, obviously, maybe I should have mentioned at the start, this is paired up with Chen Power, by the way. But yeah, obviously, a big physical attacker next to Power. Rillaboom is another fantastic physical attacker next to Chen Power. Really, the idea behind this set was, this is just the Miracle Seed set, and because of that, I just want to go, like, max into the offense, right? Honestly, you could even drop something like this, go max attack, and then just, like, drop it into this, yeah, drop something like this, even run it a bit faster if you wanted, right? Just go, like, max attack, Adamant, Miracle Seed, next to Chen Power. Your Grassy Glides deal a ridiculous amount of damage. Your High Horsepowers do a lot of damage. Yeah, it's just a really strong one. Like, Rillaboom is still going to be incredibly good. Obviously, the Grassy Surge is really nice into Miraidon. Of course, having a very strong Grass type is good into Kyogre as well. Choice Specs Flutter Mane. The spread here is very, very simple. This is what I think will be optimal in the early game. The 100, 116 defenses, it's a solid base stat to hit. There are a lot of physical attacks that you just live on these, so it does allow you to live just one. Timid max speed is simply because, like, I've said it again over the last couple of weeks. We're early format, you know, we don't really know where people are settling on the speed tiers. Things like Koraidon, Miraidon, Chen Power, all running around. And personally, I never want to be in a situation where I lose a game, especially early format, where it's like, oh, I've got like a very fast Flutterman that is a max, and I lose because my opponent had max. Obviously, though, Icy Wind is very, very good when paired up with Koraidon. You get the speed booster coming off the photosynthesis, so having that is very good at setting up Koraidon for some big kills. But of course, we are a Choice Specs Terra Fairy Fluttermane with Dazzling Gleam and Moonblast. That deals a monster amount of damage. Honestly, with this little special attack investment, this mon still deals a crazy amount of damage. Now, Chien-Pao, unfortunately, I've been an adamant Chien-Pao lover for a very, very long time. It is time to start running Jolly Boys. Sadly, we're in a situation where you don't want to ever be speed tying Miraidon and Koraidons. Fluttermanes are a bit different. They're probably just going to outspeed you always now, thanks to their good friend in the sun. But I do think Chien-Paos never want to lose the speed ties, especially because they have Icicle Crash, right? A super effective attack into both mons that kind of does force out the Terra, which is very, very nice. Sucker Punch and Sacred Sword, though. I was honestly quite surprised to see a lot of people still running Sacred Sword. I thought we were going to be in a situation where people would just start dropping Sacred Sword for a second Dark type move, whether it be something like Crunch, Throat Chop, even Lash Out, I think are all pretty good. But yeah, still got the Sacred Sword. I guess, look, it still does hit a lot of Pokemon, right? It's very, very good into things like Terapagos as well, which I think is very, very good, of course. But yeah, still cool to see that Chien-Pao is still, he's up there. He's still dominating with the big boys. Then we have Goggles, Raging Bolt. Now, you're probably thinking, Scott, Rillaboom didn't have the Assault Vest? Now Raging Bolt doesn't have the Assault Vest? Yes, this one's still very, very good, right? Terra Electric in the sun does stupid amount of damage with its T-Bolt and its Thunderclap. And of course, Drake and Meteors coming off this thing are very, very good. In terms of the speed stat, I went up to 104 simply because I think it's a nice number to hit that isn't too invested with Icy Wind, right? You do start to outspeed, some of the faster ones like that kind of creep around that base 150 range. And because of that, sorry, not base 150, mods that hit up to 150 speed. But yeah, so I think having a little bit of speed is nice. I used to run like 103, but the reason I go for 104 here is simply just because it's like a nice number. I like just splitting the defenses, hitting the bump, maxing out the HP, and it's kind of what I'm just left with. And because of that, I just like hitting the speed, so I think it's pretty nice. But yeah, of course, Raging Bolt, very similar to Rillaboom, helps you out a lot into like opposing Kyogres. And of course, it's just very, very good into things like Miraidon as well, right? Because it's a mon that with its Terra, it can eat any one hit. And if they don't Terra, you can fire off a massive Draco. If they do Terra, you can obviously fire off big T-Bolts in terrain or a Thunderclap, which is good. And then finally, the actual Assault Vest mon on the team, which is Entei. Honestly, surprised Makelda here didn't have like Bandit or something. But look, I still think Entei is a very, very good Pokemon. Obviously, Terra Normal E-Speed next to Chien-Pao is very solid. Obviously, Sacred Fires in the sun does a lot of damage. Stomping Tantrum Fleblets, it's just a good mon, right? It likes not being locked into its moves here. 128 hits a nice speed tier for Icy Winds. I believe it allows you to outspeed all those base 135s if they're not timid or jolly. It obviously just helps you out with things like the 187s. I think off the top of my head, I think that's what it's like calc for, something like that. It hits like 100. It outspeeds like Pokemon that hit 190 after Icy Wind, essentially is what I'm trying to say. But yeah, really, really cool team here by Makelda. I do think Koraidon is like super good. This mon's damage output is actually wild. Like, honestly, anyone who thinks like Groudon is head and shoulders above this Pokemon, start looking at some damage calcs, play this mon, outspeed everything and one-shot stuff that you shouldn't. It's honestly stupid. So the next team we're going to be looking at here is Haywire's team. Now, I'm gonna throw this one out here for all my weebs actually in chat. Haywire, for anyone who doesn't know, is a Japanese player. And this word, I actually know what it means in Japanese. It actually is like peace in Japanese. And the reason I know that is because it's Itachi's favorite word from Naruto. Don't ask me how I know that. It's just a little bit of trivia for you. But yeah, Haywire means peace in Japanese. But this guy, he's not looking for peace with this team here, man. This is a Koraidon Chiyu Sun team. This is definitely something your boy would cook up. I'd probably have like Rillaboom here instead. But yeah, this is my kind of shit. Yeah, this is the clear amulet. We got the flame charge stuff. Exact same set we're looking at before. Very, very good Pokemon. Pet it up, of course, with the Focus Sash Fluttermane. A very, very good option on this one right now. 3 attack plus taunt, I did think was very, very interesting. Obviously, I like running Protect on this one, but you Sash, right? So you can use that taunt, obviously, into things like opposing Amoonguss. Of course, anything trying to set up with Carmine, Plot, whatever, right? Very, very good. And of course, one thing I don't really think I've touched on enough with Fluttermane is, like, having a Fluttermane on these Sun teams, like, really helps out into the Calyrex-Shadows, which I do think is, like, super, super important. Amoonguss, of course, just a fantastic redirection one. We kind of all know what it does at this point. Same set we looked at earlier. Raging Bolt on this team, though, is Assault Vest, which I do think is very, very good. I've also forgot to put the Modest Nature on that, which is bad. I will drop all the links to these teams down below. Now, this team, I wish I did a little bit more research in terms of looking on Twitter for it, because I have seen a lot of people running this. I don't know if it's actually public or not. Maybe I should have actually had a look around before I actually put out my spreads for it. But do keep an eye out for that. If I do find them, I'll either put it down below or I'll like chuck it on Twitter or something. But yeah, Terra Electric, again, in the sun, does a lot of damage. But having Electro Webs is obviously a very good form of speed control as well, right? Gives you a secondary speed control mon. even a third speed control, honestly, on this team, which is very good. But again, I kind of said what Raging Bolt does on these teams a few times already. It's just very, very good into, you know, those the electric teams, the Rhydon teams, the Kyogre teams. Very, very solid, yeah. Also, Assault Vest makes it pretty nice into things like Terrapagos as well, especially if you just style spam it, which is pretty solid. Cover Cloak Tornadus, very similar to the set we had earlier, but because we are playing Bleakwind in the sun, I did opt to go very, very bulky, opposed to especially defensive invested. We just hit the bump number here, split into the special attack and the speed stat, and then put the rest in special defense, just the way I like to play it personally. And then, of course, the big fish. I'm a huge fan of Modest Fish right now. I think you play either... Like, honestly, right now, I think Modest is the best. I do think Scarfish is honestly underutilized right now. I think Scarfish is very, very good. But, of course, Life Orb in the sun does make this bond go burr. Obviously, here, we do see they've opted to obviously drop the Dark Pulse, which I think is fine, right? Most of the time, you want to be clicking one of these two moves anyway. And, of course, if you're clicking something like Snarl, it is to slow down Pokemon like Calyrex-Shadow and, of course, Terrapagos. But yeah, honestly, hitting the 150 speed stat is just very, very solid. It allows you to outspeed things like Calyrex and, of course, our good friend Urshifu, if you get an Icy Wind up from the Fluttermane. Also, too, I think having Protect on this mod's nice, but also base 150 is just solid when paired up with Tornadus. So yeah, I'm just a huge fan of this set. I think it's really good. It allows you to hit the 49 number as well while hitting the bump and the speed you want. Basically, for anyone, I guess, who doesn't know, I'll kind of explain this real quickly. The bump here, as you guys can see, I'm at 170, which means when I go Modest, that's not Modest, that's Mild. When I go Modest, I hit 187. If I drop 1 point, I actually go down to 185. So you get 2 points for hitting that 0. It's just like, obviously, because Pokemon rounds down. And then the Life Orb number here is 149. Life Orb always takes 1/10 of your max health, which basically means if your like HP ever ends in a 0, it's inefficient. Because right now, Life Orb will take 14 damage off me, or like it'll deal 14 damage per turn. Whereas this will now take 15 if I put 1 more point into it. So that's kind of why we go for that, if anyone didn't know. But yeah, a really cool team here. Honestly, this is a team that I will personally probably steal and test out at some point, because I'm a huge fan of this core. I think the Fluttermane Raging Bolt Chi-Yu core is unreal. It's a core I've literally been talking about since before Raging Bolt was even released. I was like, these mons in Sun look sick. And now we have good Sunsetters, so I absolutely love that. So the final team we're going to be looking at here is Pokebay's team. Now, this is the team that actually did get, I believe, second place in the Himi Tour, which was the one with 140 players. Of course, classic me, I've left the IVs off the insyn there. But this was a slightly different Koraidon set. This was the SD Blitz Collision Course set. Now, for this one, I just opted for a bit more bulk, only opting for 76 Adamant. The reason behind that is because you still hit pretty hard, but because you have Swords Dance, and I'm assuming a lot of the time you do want to try to click it, you don't necessarily need as much investment, and allows you to kind of put a bit more in bulk. And honestly, like, I wouldn't be surprised if this was even slower, like only hitting like 180-ish speed. But yeah, I ended up just opting for this spread here because it still gives you quite a bit of bulk while also getting a bit of offense. And yeah, I think Swords Dance is a really cool take on this mod, especially when you have things like the Rillaboom and the Insyn helping you set it up. But as you guys can see, this is a very different take on the Koraidon team because it's more of a balanced team, right? You've got the Incineroar, which we've got the EVs on, but it would be this very similar to what we had before. And then the Rillaboom here, obviously double Fake Out, Grassy Surge plus Intimidate is very, very good. And this team did opt for the U-Turn, so U-Turn plus Parting Shot is very, very strong. Of course, we see our Choice Specs Fluttermane, same set we had earlier, so I'm not going to touch on it too much, but very, very strong. But then we see the Giraffe on this team. The Giraffe gives this team a very cool option, right? Because one, if you're going up against opposing Trick Room, this is very good at, like, flipping it. But also, two, it's a helping hand mon that with Throat Spray and Hyper Voice and Psychic is one that you can't really ignore. So if you're playing against a super offensive team, getting up a Trick Room and then just spam moves is obviously very, very good. But of course, if you're going up against, a really slow team or like a balanced team, this one can kind of just sit there and really just click its buttons. Not to mention, it kind of protects Koraidon as well from Fake Out, which is very, very good. And then the final one on the team here was the Ogerpon Hearthflame, which is another incredibly good Pokemon in Sun. Especially too when you pair it up with our good friend Rillaboom. You have Koraidon giving it the Sun, buffing up those Ivy Cudgels, and of course you have Rillaboom giving it the Grassy Terrain, buffing up the Grassy Glide. And yeah, really, really good. I think Rillaboom plus Ogerpon Hearthflame on Sun teams is going to be an absolutely bonkers combo, man. It's like really, really good, of course, into the Kyogres. It can deal quite a bit of damage and deal with the Miraidons. And yeah, honestly, it's just like super, super sick. But yeah, anyway, guys, that's going to be it for this video. Of course, like, I'll also leave the link to these tournaments down below as well. Like, if you guys want to, like, go check them out, there's a lot of cool stuff here. Like, another one I really actually want to talk about is these Zacian teams, because we've seen a lot of Zacian with Pelipper running around, which I do think is, like, really sick. And yeah, so I'll leave the link down below to Limitless, and you guys can go check out these tours if you want. But yeah, it's awesome seeing these guys get results, because, like, everyone's kind of sleeping on them right now. I'm seeing so much Kyogre hate on Twitter, man, and it really hurts me, because I love this mod, and I think it's really cool. But yeah, anyway, guys, let me know what you think of the teams down below, and I'm going to get out of here, so I'll catch you guys in the next one.